Hi, I'm Robert, and today I'm going to show you how I take this image of Laguna Beach from here to here, all in Lightroom. I took this image at Laguna Beach in Laguna Beach back in 2014. I was looking back through my old images, and I went here many times. For some reason, I got unlucky every time. It was always gloomy like this whenever I was at Laguna Beach. After this image, I went back several more times, and I was finally able to get the image I wanted. I'm looking forward to sharing that image with you guys. But for now, we're going to work on this gloomy image from Laguna. Let's get started at the bottom. Double check we're on the current version. We're going to skip vignetting for now. And we're going to go up and make sure this image is straight. Click on Constrain Crop. Zoom in on the horizon. Bring up your grid lines. And let's straighten it out. That looks good. Now let's go up to the next section, remove chromatic aberrations and enable profile corrections. Fixes some of the vignetting and the barrel distortion caused by my ultra wide lens. I was using a Tokina 11-16 f2.8 at the time. This is the version 1 lens. It was pretty good. I ended up dropping that lens in the sand and broke the autofocus, but it didn't matter because I only ever manual focused it anyways. I shoot all of my seascape images at f14, and I just set the focus on the lens to infinity. Everything from your foreground to your background is going to be sharp that way. Alright, let's move on. Let's add our standard sharpening routine of 100 sharpening and applying a mask. Hold down Alt so we can bring up our mask. Let's sharpen everything except for the sky. Let's continue up. We're going to skip the color panel for now. Go up to the basic panel. This image is quite cool, so let's warm it up a little bit. Now let's open up this image. Let's bring our highlights down and bring our shadows up. That's a bit much. Let's bring them back down quite a bit. Right there looks good. We don't have a ton of shadow tone, so we don't need to bring it up too much. Now looking at the histogram, it's a little too far to the left for my liking. You can see this peak here. Let's move it over to the right a little bit using the exposure. Now our exposure looks a little better. Let's set our white point and our black point. We'll bring the whites up until they clip and then back it down. Same things with the black point. We'll bring it down. Once it clips, bring it back up. So now we're at -15. Now we're using our entire histogram from the left all the way to the right. If you don't set your exposure properly, your image still might look okay on an LCD screen, but if you went to go print it, it's going to turn out dark. And if you're making a big metal print, it's going to cost you a lot of money to make that mistake. So always double check your histogram before you go and make prints. Let's work on the sky here. Grab our graduated tool, pull it down while holding down Shift so we can get a straight line. First up, let's darken the sky a little bit. And let's go down here, click on our color. Let's change the color up a little bit, trying to add some more warmth to it. Somewhere around here, we can bring in some yellow. You can click and hold, drag it down, so you can move it around until you find a color you like. Over to the right's a little more green. Over here is a little more magenta and red. So I want it somewhere in the middle, right around here. And we can also add some saturation. Just grab the saturation slider. Let's bring it up till we like how it looks. That looks pretty good. Let's check out our before and after. Here's before, here's after. It's darker, more saturated, more dramatic looking. All right, let's close the grad tool and now open up the brush. So we have a brush. Let's paint in this foreground. Press O to turn on our overlay. Paint all of this area. Press O to turn off our overlay, and let's add some texture. We'll bring it up until we like how it looks. Right about there. Adding texture to your foreground element draws the eye in. My goal is always for my viewers to start with the foreground and have their eye lead through the image to the background. I also want their eye to shift from side to side, so in this case, right to left. Let's click on New. Let's get a new brush going. Press O for overlay, and let's brush in all of this white water. That looks good. Let's erase the water that's on the rocks here. By holding down Alt, turns your brush into an eraser. Press O to turn off our overlay. Double click on effects and it'll reset all of your sliders. So let's see if there's any yellow in here. We're going to bring down the color temperature just a little bit. We'll bring it down too much. So now it's a little too blue. Now we'll back it off. Right around here, just to pull out some of the yellow color. Make the water more white. Let's also brighten it up. Let's see how far we can take this. It's a little bit too far. Let's back it back down. We're just going to go with 0.1 of exposure. So now the water is a little brighter and a little more white. All right, I'm done with the brush for now. Let's go down to vignetting and add a small vignette. The reason why I'm going to add a vignette in this image is because most of our action is in the middle of the frame. So I want to add a vignette to draw the eye into the middle. So let's do that. I think -10's a little much. Let's go to -5. So vignette adds darkening in the corners of your image, which helps draw your eye into the middle. I'm happy with the way this edit came out. I think we made the best of this gloomy sunset. I really like this powerful water that we have crashing into frame. Let's take a look at our settings for this image. So I was shooting at f13 in 1/4 of a second. My favorite shutter speeds are between 1/130th of a second and about a 1/2 a second. If you're in that range, you're going to get really nice water action. The slower you go with your shutter speed, the more blur you're going to get, especially in the foreground. And if you go even slower, you're going to get more blurry water farther out into the ocean. The reason why I like 1/30th to the 1/4 range is you can get nice water action in the foreground, but you can still maintain some nice texture out in the ocean water. If you were shooting this at 5 seconds, all of the action here would be lost because it'd be so blurred out, and you would have a little bit of a blur in the water out here, giving it a fake kind of look. I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe. Thanks.